To all my fellow men out there, when Me Too first broke, what was your reaction? Did you get defensive? Do you think not all men? I haven't done anything like that? Or did you start to take stock of your actions and relationships and think about ways in which you might have failed to stop this consistent culture of abuse and manipulation that women have to live through? Did you have to do a self-reflection on your own actions? Things you'd said or hadn't said that affected the women in your life? Did you think about men in your life who maybe you'd enabled to continue perpetuating or participating in that culture? What was your part in it? This is Jake from Drunken Logic. I'm proud to say I did the latter, as painful as it was. I've always considered myself a feminist. I was raised by a feminist mother. But that doesn't mean that I haven't slipped up or not been present and attentive to the needs of the women I've been interacting with in my life. And there have definitely been times when I haven't listened or have placed my needs over theirs and have made them feel uncomfortable. And maybe it wasn't criminal. Not all of us are Bill Cosby or Harvey Weinstein. Hopefully very few of us are. But when there are the Bill Cosbys and Harvey Weinsteins out there, and the rest of us aren't paying attention, aren't trying actively to stop a culture that allows that to thrive and allows men like that to gain positions of power and use that power to continue to manipulate and abuse, then we're not doing enough. We're not doing what men should do. And that's something I really regret and think about a lot. And one of the most glaring instances of that involves a friend of mine from college. I realize that I'm a performer for a living, but I'm ultimately an introvert. And as a result, I tend to gravitate towards people who are a kind of social center of gravity. People who keep a community around them, for better or for worse. So I don't have to do the heavy lifting of the networking and opening myself up and, trying to build relationships on my own. I can kind of just float around that center of the galaxy and bump into who I bump into. This friend was really good at that. Good looking, charming, a huge fan of this band, frankly. But over time, I became more and more uncomfortable with the way he was interacting with women and the way that they often came away from those interactions feeling damaged, even traumatized. In the moment, because he was my friend, I spent most of my time saying, hey, don't do that crap around me. I don't want to be a part of that. I see what you're doing. You're your own person. But I'm not going to participate. And probably worst of all, to at least one of the women to whom he was behaving this way, I also said, I don't want to be around you when you're with this guy. Instead of trying to be an active participant, trying to help, trying to support that person when they needed it. In retrospect, I realized that he was emotionally abusing people that I cared about, manipulating them, making them feel terrible about themselves. And that, in many ways, I enabled him to do it. I really only got a complete picture of it after he and I had more or less stopped being friends. And so that felt like a major failure to me in a way that I hadn't processed before I realized how deeply this culture ran, how often women had to put up with aggressive, abusive men. And in response to that, I wrote a song, because sometimes that's the best you can do, particularly in hindsight. And this new single, Rounding Up, is me trying to have that conversation with that friend in a way that I never managed to at the time. To tell him, not only are you affecting the women in our lives adversely, you're in many cases traumatizing them, ruining their sense of self and crushing their self-esteem. But your approach isn't going to make you a better human being or a fully realized adult. It's not going to make you a real man. Rounding up won't make a whole of you. We kind of expand on that theme when it comes to the music video, because I think while women obviously have to deal with a certain amount of callousness and aggression and terrible male behavior that's been socialized as normal, I think it's also increasingly clear that in this age of dating apps and social media and the internet and texting, it's really easy to be callous and, frankly, kind of cruel to the people you're romantically involved with. It's easier than ever to just ghost somebody and never give them an explanation as to what happened, or to just whip out your phone and swipe through pictures and remind yourself that there might actually be more fish in the sea, something better for you out there, that you might be settling for something. You've got this portal in your pocket to what other people want you to think is a better life, a better world, a better way of living. And while, of course, there are systems of oppression that we men perpetuate, particularly towards women, it's easier than ever to be emotionally distant and callous to the people that are in our lives and to not be present and honest and vulnerable with them. Thanks so much for listening. This has been another episode of Something About Nothing. We've got several more coming up for you. Stay tuned.